So today I'm going to present to you all my action research plan, and I did mine on parent-teacher relationships. So often the parent-teacher relationship is non-existent, and we see that specifically here at TES. We have a very low parent involvement. So today I'm going to present to you guys some protocols and programs that we can possibly use to improve parent-teacher relationships. So what I did through my action research plan is I analyzed data that I collected on students, parents, and teachers, and I was able to determine how does parent involvement affect student success. Okay, so the purpose of this study, my goal is to improve parents' involvement in our school. And so I wanted to share with you guys exactly what is parent involvement, because I think often we get confused on what it includes. So parent involvement, I say, includes any school events, so such as like our flip night that we have. It also includes like anything that parents come with their children. It also includes any kind of parent-teacher conferences, when we do ours 2 times a year, but then also any that you have throughout the year. It also includes any meetings that the parents attend, and then any time that parents volunteer in the classroom, whether it's read-alouds or classroom parties, anything like that, and then also field trips. And then another part of parent involvement also includes the way that parents are involved at home. So talking with your child about homework, talking with your child about their future, why is education important, why is school important. So I had 2 research questions that kind of guided my research. The first one is, how does the academic success of students whose parents are involved in their education differ from students whose parents are not involved? So how are these group of students compared to whose parents are involved compared to the parents who's not involved? How is their academic success different? And then I also had another research question. It's, what are the steps that educators and administrators need to take in order to encourage parents to become more involved in their child's education? So what are the protocols, what are the programs, what are the steps that we as educators need to take? So throughout my research I used a lot of different articles. I'm going to share with you guys 3 specific ones that had some really good information in it. So the first one was on the dynamics of parental involvement. So this one kind of gives you those examples of what is it. So some examples of parent involvement for helping with homework, parent-teacher meetings or conferences, talking with their child about the importance of education, communicating with educators about their child's school behavior. So anytime that you have notes or phones, talking on the phone with parents, that's also a way that a parent is involved. And then also checking their child's progress report. So we often have our sign their progress reports and send it back. That's another way of parental involvement. Involvement, so this article also had, where is involvement greater? So involvement is greater among parents who are Caucasian, who have a higher income, who do not receive economic aid, parents with a higher education level, and then parents who speak English as their first language, and then also parents whom are born in the U.S. So we see this all in our district. We have 2 elementary schools. Our one elementary school who has higher parent involvement also has parents who have a higher income, who are mostly Caucasian, who are not receiving economic aid. Where we are a Title I school, we also see that we have lower parent involvement. So this article gave me a lot of data points that I used to kind of guide my research and my action plan. 57% of parents reported receiving notes or emails from the child's school that related specifically to their child. So only 57% are receiving notes that relate specifically to their child, not the whole class. Of that 57% who had those notes, 41% indicated that the communication was via telephone. So of that 57%, only 41 is through a phone, while 76% reported attending a regularly scheduled parent-teacher conference. So 76% actually go to a parent-teacher conference, which in my classroom and in our classrooms, we often see that we do have about 76% of our parents come to parent-teacher conferences. This article also said that 67% of children had an adult in their household that would check their homework to make sure it's complete. Again, here at TES, we often have kids who either come to school with incomplete homework or homework that has not been checked by a parent. So only 67% of children have an adult at home to help them. So that's huge. Overall, when communication is lacking between parents and teachers, the parent-teacher relationship is often non-existent. So as teachers, it is our responsibility and our job to get parents on board and involved. The last one was on family involvement. So this also had a survey. This interviewed teachers and parents. And here are some of the different things that parents and teachers said. So it was asking them, why is there a low parent involvement? So these are the teachers' responses compared to the parents' responses. So teachers said that they thought the reasons for lack of involvement was because of lack of interest. They thought that parents weren't interested. They also thought that parents were unwilling, so that they, didn't want to come. So the interest was low and that they didn't want to come. While parents said that the reason why that they weren't involved in school was because of the timing and the constant change in education, which we know there's a constant change in education. So parents often feel confused or don't know what to do or how to help their child. So that constant change in education and also the timing of the events of when they're taking place. They also said it's because it's hard to keep up. They cannot keep up with how our constant change of math, specifically here we know that with math, our Engage in Y, Common Core math, parents are struggling with it and they don't know how to help their child. Timing of events, and then children get upset when their parent leaves school events. So a lot of the times parents choose not to be involved because when they do come into the classroom and help out, their child gets upset about them leaving. So parents and teachers do not agree on why there's a lack of parent involvement. So we need to bridge that. So my methods of data collection included student data, teacher data, and parent data. My question 1 was all through the student data. So what I did was I compared grades between students who have parents who are involved and students whose parents are not involved. And then for question 2, I used teacher data and parent data. I did both of these through SurveyMonkey, where parents and teachers just answered questions, mostly multiple choice questions like a yes or no, and then they also answered some short answer questions as well. So my procedures in order to do my action research, the first thing that I did was I distributed the parent survey and analyzed the results. And then through SurveyMonkey, I sent out the teacher survey and analyzed the results. And then I analyzed the student data by collecting all of the students' grades, both the parents who are involved and the parents who are not involved. And then I determined patterns from the surveys and student data to decide on my next steps, or our next steps, in the findings. So now I'm going to share with you guys some of the results that I have from the data. So the student data, again, it's the parent, what I compared was parent involvement versus student grades. So here you can see, this is how many times that the parents were involved. So 0 to 2 times, 2 to 5 times, 5 to 8 times, and then 8 or more. So that's how many times the parents were involved. And then the students' average grades. So those students whose parents were involved 0 to 2 times had an average grade of, close to 60%, which is a D according to our grading scale. And then those parents who participated 2 to 5 times, had an average of a 70%, which is a C according to our grading scale. And then if you look at those parents who were involved 8 or more times, which we know that doesn't happen often, so there's very few that could answer yes to that question, had more close to a 90% grade average, which is an A. So this data actually did show what I was expecting for it to show. The next results I'm going to share is the parent survey results. So I put 3 of my questions that I had from the survey on here. My first question was, how informed are you of your child's individual success? So not of the class, of your own individual child. Most of them said somewhat. So majority of them know of their child somewhat, how they know somewhat of how their child is doing. And then only, about half, a little more than half, or a quarter, said that they were very informed. And then I also included the lines of communication. So there's many different ways that we communicate with parents. So I just included and compared how are we communicating with parents. So I had impersonal and then personal. So I included examples of what is impersonal and what is personal. So personal includes emails, texts, phone calls, notes, and meetings. Any of those are personal communication with parents. And then any of the impersonal are things like just a newsletter, weekly newsletter, website pages, or any kind of blogs. All of those are more impersonal. You're not communicating with the parent specifically. So about 75% or more said that the communication is impersonal. And then how comfortable do you feel when helping your child with the homework? So through my research, I found that parents are not comfortable with helping their child with their homework. So through this question, I found out that most parents say that they're not comfortable at all with helping their child with homework. And again, we find that most of the time it seems like it's with math that the parents do not feel comfortable. So my next results was the teacher survey. So I asked two questions I included on here. The first one is, how many opportunities do you allow for the parents to be involved? And if you look here, majority of us say that we only provide 0 to 2 opportunities. I know myself, most of the time that I provide parent involvement in my classroom is parties. So I know, we need to find ways of how can we increase and come up with more ways to allow parents to come into the classroom. And then how do you communicate with the parents? Again, I asked that same question, how are you communicating? Is it impersonal or personal? And majority of us said that it was impersonal. So websites, newsletters. So my findings through all of the data that I collected and analyzed. For question 1, it was asking how comparison of the students, parents who are involved, parents who are not involved. And based on that student data, I found that typically the more that parents are involved at both home and school, the higher the grade average. And after analyzing the parent survey, I found that majority of parents do not feel capable of helping their child with homework. And for question 2, I used all 3 data sources. And so based on the parent survey, I found that a majority of my parents felt somewhat informed about their child's own individual success. And looking at both the parent survey and the teacher survey, most line of communication taking place was impersonally. So both parents and teachers are noticing that most communication is impersonal. Based on the teacher survey, there is a lack of parental involvement activities in the classroom. Again, we have to find more ways for parents to be involved in the classroom. Not just field trips, not just parties. So my follow-up actions, there needs to be more personal communication, more communication with parents on their own individual child, notes, phone calls, meetings, any way of letting a parent know how their own child is doing. Behavior and academics are included. So individualized feedback. There also needs to be more homework support for parents. So we've already started making a lot of those changes here, but is it going across all grade levels? That's what we really need to make sure is happening. So the homework help can come from online videos, it can come from newsletters like what we use, or it can come from family learning nights, our flip nights that we have where parents come and learn from the teachers. There needs to be more opportunities for volunteering. That can come through Read Aloud. That can come from them coming in and working with a small group of students on a reading skill or a math skill. So my conclusion, so through this process I've learned a lot. I have been able to use the suggestions and information learned through this action research in my own classroom already. So I feel like already, and I know the things that I need to do, I'm able to communicate with parents more personally, and I'm trying to individualize feedback to the parents. And I now have a better understanding of parents and teachers' perceptions. So now I have a better understanding of what parents' perceptions on parent involvement are, and how they feel about us as teachers, of how we're communicating, and the different and why they feel like they can't become more involved. So for future action research, I would like to consider and research ways that my school can increase parent involvement in schools. So how can we continue to increase this parent involvement? My references.